Hi everyone, and welcome back. Welcome me back, actually. I've been out of town for about a week. Just got back. While I was out, I did play a little bit of Factorio on my laptop. I managed to get the train achievement. What's it called? The one where you get the train in 90 minutes. Well, I forget which one it is. Anyway, I got that achievement. Actually took less than 90 minutes, fortunately. And I did work on this base a bit. I didn't do anything too major. And honestly, I don't know if I can remember everything that I've done since the last episode I recorded, but I'll give you the highlights. But you didn't miss a whole lot. Let's see. I reworked the rail entrance into the unloading stations at the main base. So uranium unload and the copper unload and the iron unload all have their own dedicated entrance, so they won't get stuck waiting for one another. And I also put a stacker feeding into that whole system, so we can have, 7 or 8 trains in here waiting for one another without blocking traffic. So I think that is a nice improvement. What else did we do? I set up I'm not sure if I showed you this or not. I did double up on circuit production at the circuit outpost. And I activated another copper unloading station. And basically what I did is I have it set up so that both of those copper unloading stations have the same name. They're both called circuits copper plate. And I put a circuit network in place so that whichever one has the fewest amount of copper plate is the one that's activated. And I put a green light. So in this case, we can see that this one is activated. That one's got 112K, whereas the one up here has 127K. And the way that I did that is I put a couple of combinators. So on each one, I put an arithmetic combinator that adds up all of the contents of the boxes and then outputs it as either an A or a B. So the one on the bottom is A, and the one on the top is B. And then I put a decider. So this one says if A is less than or equal to B, then it outputs a green signal, which turns the train station on. And this one says that if B is less than A, then this one activates. So only one can be active at a time, and that's why it works when they both have the same name. So that way I continue to send the trains to the circuit's copper plate station, and then whichever one is activated will get the copper plates. And so far this little scheme is enough to keep the trains, or to keep the plates more than full enough. I think at some point I'm going to want to convert this to a robotic system rather than belts, but for now we're making close to 2 blue belts full of circuits, and then I just split those into 4, 2 on each side of the loading station. So I did make a few changes there. I think that's really about all that I changed over on this side. I did do quite a bit of experimentation to try to figure out how to get these belts to be full all the time. I tried many things and could not figure it out. I even posted on Reddit to get some suggestions. I did get some suggestions, but none of them did what I wanted it to do. So, which is to keep these belts full all the time by unloading evenly. But the problem is basically that there's, these two, the insides of these two sets always take a long time to unload, and that prevents anything else from unloading. And for the life of me, I can't figure out how to fix that. Perhaps I could just put another belt there to side load. I don't know. That might help. But anyway, it's not really causing any problems downstream. You know, these, well, except once in a while we get something like this where the belts are not quite full. And that'll result in these probably turning red for a second or a half a second. At the end of the day, it's not really that big of a deal. I optimized the unloading of the circuits a little bit. So I got rid of the splitters by just bringing this belt down. So we load on the far side of the belt like this, and then we load on the near side of the belt like this. So anyway, that's all working pretty smoothly. The other thing that I did was down here. I don't think this is new. But I did add another copper smelter, or no, an iron smelter down here. This used to be the station farthest south. So I went a little bit further south and I headed west, and I found this big iron patch of 29 million, which I was thankful for, because I've been looking for another big patch of iron, because right now this is pretty much the only one that we have, and there's only 3.5 million left in it. So we were definitely going to be running out of iron soon. So I've got that one there, that's 29 million. Here's one that's 18. That one's 8.2, 13 million. So we got a few iron patches that are fairly large. And then we've also got some pretty big copper patches as well as coal. I found a big oil deposit, which has almost 3,500% yield. As I was searching and clearing biter nests, I set up this radar outpost here with a bunch of radars to kind of scan the area quickly. I was just hoping to uncover some more iron patches, but there's not much out there. We've got this big lake down here. So I'm not sure. I mean, I think if we expand further, we're probably just going to head out west from down here. But anyway, this new iron outpost I set up with robots. So what I did is I've got the miners all unloading into passive provider chests. And then at the loading station, I've got requester chests. And I set each one to hold 667 pieces, more or less. Which is enough. With 6 boxes per rail car, that's enough to fill 2 rail cars. So that way there's always enough to fill 2 trains in a row. And then I put 100 logistics bots. So when the train gets there, which you'll see here shortly, looks like it's on its way. When the train gets here, it'll unload, and then the bots will start filling up from the provider chests. So let's watch that go here in a minute. And that's all there is to it. And I settled on 100 bots. I started with 150, but what I found is that when I had 150, there were always about 50 that were idle. It was only using about 100, so I just left it with 100 bots. And I only have the one train coming here. So for one train, I mean, you can even see that with one train, I've got boxes down here, provider chests down here that are filled up that are not even really getting used yet. So this is more than enough miners to satisfy the traffic there. And I think all the stations that I build, all the outposts that I build from now on, I'm going to make robotics. It's a lot quicker to set up. I think it probably is going to be more efficient once the demand and the volume picks up. And I'll also save a lot on blue belts and blue splitters and blue underground belts, because those things are really, really expensive. One blue underground belt takes almost 500 iron plates to make. So it's pretty ridiculous. I think it's actually cheaper to make logistics bots than it is to make express belts. So that's how we're doing that now. Let's see if there was anything else. I think that's really most of what I've done of any significance in the last week. You know, I did some tuning on some of the rail, on some of the routes and things, but I didn't really implement anything really significant other than that. I also finished some research. Okay, so we have rocket silo researched because I want to start setting up a rocket base next. And looking at our to-do list, what I've got on the list now is off-site smelting. I'm thinking since we went through the effort of setting up an off-site smelting facility, I think what I'd like to do is get all this smelting out of the main base and just do it all at the smelting facility where we're taking advantage of modules and beacons and so forth. And that way we can start sending all the ore to one place, one centralized location, instead of splitting up between the main base and over there. And then what we can do is we can just unload. Over here we can just unload plates instead of unloading ore. Right? And then I also want to start setting up a rocket outpost. Like I mentioned before, the goal is going to be to do one rocket every 2 minutes. I did some experimenting in creative mode, and I found that in order to do that, we need one rocket silo with productivity modules and about 5 beacons of speed modules. And that will get it fast enough to do one rocket every 2 minutes with a single silo. I'd like to just do it with one silo if we can. And the plan there will be to basically bring in everything by train. All the, first and second tier ingredients that we need for rocket components. So we'll bring in iron plate, copper plate, steel plate. We'll bring in plastic bars, green circuits. We may possibly bring in red circuits and blue circuits too, but I think I'll probably just try to do those at the rocket base, just using the other ingredients. And I may set up a base to make gear wheels as well. But we can start to look at that by adding a recipe for the rocket parts. I'll have to go and check my notes because we need different numbers of each. I think rocket control unit is the one that will be closest to the 2 a minute. Right, so for a rocket part we need 10 of each. And if we're going to do 2 a minute with productivity modules, we need 1,000 of each divided by 1.4. So we need about 714 every 2 minutes. Divide that by 2. So that's 357 per minute of the rocket control unit. So let's start by plugging that in. Yeah, let's see. 1,000 divided by 1.4 divided by 2 divided by 60. Yeah, so that's about 6 per second. So let's put in 6 instead of 3. And actually, let's be a little more precise than 6. 2 divided by 60. It's actually 5.95. Let's see if it'll take decimals. Yeah, it does. All right. And if we load those with modules and give those 8 beacons each, then that means we're going to need 27 machines making rocket control units as an example. And then we'll have to figure out what we need for processing units, speed modules, and so on. So we'll start doing some planning there. Actually, we can go ahead and finish the planning on this one. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. 24. Okay. So if this uses 4 modules, and again, 8 beacons each, that's with beacons on both sides. Then we'll need 6 machines making blue circuits. For speed modules, we can't use productivity modules. We can use speed modules though. Should we put beacons as well? I guess we might as well. 8 beacons. So we'll need 8 making the speed modules. And then if we do red circuits in the same area, again with 8, okay, so we'll need 22. So that's basically what we'll need for the rocket control units. And I'm thinking that, yeah, I think we'll do all this at the rocket base. So we'll do all this robotically, and then we'll have robots take it over to the silo. Right? And then this tells us what we're going to need to bring in. We're going to need, 60, 80. We're going to need about 100 and something circuits per second. We're going to need that many plastic per second, and then a lot of copper cable and sulfuric acid. So anyway, we will do this, run through the same exercise for each of the other parts once I figure out how many per second we need of each. And then based on that, we'll start designing the rocket base. But like I said, for now, I would like to focus on the smelting. And one of the opportunities we have with the smelting is to use more beacons. Right now we only have beacons on one side, and if we feed with robots instead of belts, we can do a lot more than that. So let me grab an electric furnace and a few modules so that we can experiment with that a bit. Or not modules, but beacons. Beacon. There we go. Okay, so let's wait for those to get delivered. While we're working on this, I'm just going to, as far as research goes, I'm just going to continue doing mining productivity. Because that's definitely worthwhile research, in my opinion. Looks like our engine units are not quite keeping up here. I should probably put productivity and beacons on those too. Or maybe just speed. Let's try putting some speed modules in here. No, you know what? I think I prefer productivity. I'm more concerned about being efficient with resources than I am about speed at this point. The time for high speed will come later. And I can always try to squeeze in a couple beacons over here as well. I only need one on each side, actually. Let's go ahead and do that. while I'm here, and then we'll look at the smelting. No, that's a RoboPort. There we go. Okay, and then another one. Right here. That'll get that engine control. What do they call this one? Electric engine. Pardon me. Okay, and then I gotta fit a beacon up here someplace, but I don't know if I can. Not without moving things around a bit. These pipes are in the way. Let's see. I could run the pipe over here. Or could I? No, I can't. Not the way these are lined up right now. What I should do is move this whole thing over. Or just have it come over here with robots. Yep, let's just pick this up. And I'm going to move it over about 2 squares. Okay. Yeah, in fact, I could really put that anywhere. I'll just put it down here. Let me grab some yellow belts. I know I've got some in here. There we go. Whoops. I gave myself another set of legs, and I'm not sure if I like it. It's almost too fast to control. There we go. And we'll let that unload. Okay, there we go. And we barely missed a beat. Okay. And now, whoops. Let me delete some of these. Okay. Now I'll blueprint that. And I'm going to move it over a few squares. Actually, I don't want to lose the power poles yet. There we go. So those are all still being fed. And now I can put a beacon over here. Oh, wouldn't you know it? Okay, let's... There we go. And we'll put these over here. We're almost there. There we go. Okay, good. So now we got crafting speed 0.9, which is actually faster than they were before. And I guess we might as well go ahead and make these level 3 assemblers so we can put more modules in there. Right? No point holding back now. These guys, I'll just leave like that. Actually, I'm going to keep the modules. These are just for trains anyway. That's the only reason I'm making those engines. Okay, so hopefully we should have enough engines coming down here to keep all these guys busy. And keep our rate of science production. Okay, so talking about smelting. Alright, so right now we've got a setup kind of like this. Right, and with this setup we only have space to put a beacon on each side. Like we can do, I think it's set up like that, and then another one over here. Like that. Okay, so in that case we only get the beacon effect from one of the two sides. So if we were going to have beacons on both sides, how could we do it? Well, we could continue to feed with belts, and we could just have the furnaces all feed to one side. Like that. That would be an option. And then, you know, halfway down the line, do something like this. Well, it would have to be in a slightly different place. Right? And then you could have your outputs like that. That way you'd feed, and this would be ore up here. So that could work. That might be the easiest way to do it. The other way to do it would be to use... would be not to use belts at all. And just to use bots. So using a requester chest and a provider chest, which I need. Right, and then just have one like that, and then we'd have to feed the whole thing with robots. Which I'm not opposed to doing. In fact, I think we may have to do that at some point anyway. I'm not quite sure how many robots it's going to take. I'll take those, thank you. It'll take a lot of robots. But then with this setup, you know, we can have We can have beacons on both sides like this. And we can get a lot of furnaces in there. You know, I think long term that's really the way to do it. I think that's how it's going to have to be. Doing it with belts, with single-sided belts to begin with, I think would be, you know, quicker and easier. But, you know, if we're going to go and tear up the area, we might as well just do it once. So that's what I think we'll do. Looks like I dropped a turret there. So I have been making bots, logistics bots. Oh yeah, okay, and we've got quite a lot. I've got almost 1,000 here in the chest. I've been making a bunch but not putting them in the network just because I want to have them available to take to bases. So I've got close to 1,000 bots there now. I think that's going to be more than enough to... I think that's going to be more than enough for the smelting operation at least. So in the next episode, we will start converting our smelting area to robot-based, and then we'll expand it as well. We're going to add a lot more furnaces. We'll add steel as well. And then once all that is complete, then we will eliminate all of this here and just bring in plates to the main base. And that way all of our ore will go to the smelting area only, and it'll make things a little more simple. So that'll be the next episode. Thanks a lot for watching. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.